So, sampling. Remember last week we talked about synthesizers, and we talked about the basic layout of synthesizers. So here we go. With the synthesizer, you've got the oscillator goes into the filter and goes into the amplifier. And if you remember last week, when I talked about that, I said that this stuff applies to everything that creates sound. Everything that's like an electronic instrument that creates sound has something that makes the sound, which we're going to call an oscillator, the filter, or the amplifier. And the oscillator from a synth, that's actually generating the sound itself. But how the oscillator works is going to change depending on what type of synthesis you have. So for example, if you've got a bunch of sine waves that you're adding into the different harmonic frequencies, that's called an additive synthesizer. If you've got a wave, like a table of different waveforms that can scroll through those different waveforms, that's called wavetable. If you've got a little small snippet of sound that you can scroll through the grains of the sample, like the individual little samples, that's called granular synthesis. If it's using math to recreate physics in nature, it's called physical modeling. So there's lots of different types of synthesis, lots of different types of oscillators that we can use for this. But with a sampler, what we're doing is we're replacing the oscillator here with a sound that we've recorded. And so everything else stays the same. So if you remember what we talked about last week with the oscillator, the filter, the amplifier, and then we talked about the LFOs and the envelopes, everything is the same. So you don't need to recreate the wheel, so to speak, in order to understand sampling. You just have to replace that oscillator, which remember with our analog or virtual analog synthesizers is like a sine wave or a square wave, sawtooth, something like that. You're just replacing that part with a sound that has been pre-recorded. And honestly, most of the instruments that you're going to be working with these days are sample-based. So that means that somebody recorded an instrument and then put that as the kind of foundation to start your building blocks. And I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of what I mean by this right now. Let me just I see Decree. What is up, Decree? How you doing? So I just loaded up a couple things in here, and this is a piano sound. This is in Kontakt, and so with Kontakt, this is by Native Instruments. It's a sampler that a lot of companies have used as their kind of starting point. They use that as their basis, the engine for creating their libraries. So this is a company called Spitfire. They made this piano called Olafur Arnold's Composer Toolkit, the grand piano, and they've sampled this piano. And so now when I play it, you can hear that's actually the piano. That's like this dude's piano in his studio that they went and recorded it. They recorded all the different keys. They recorded different levels of how hard or soft you're playing it. They recorded all this stuff and they put it in here. So if I buy this piano, then I can now play this and I'm essentially getting this person's piano to play. Okay. Another example is over here, Omnisphere. A lot of y'all have probably heard of Omnisphere. And Omnisphere is a giant library of samples. Omnisphere is more than that. It's actually a synthesizer and a sampler kind of combined. So it has multiple oscillators, and those oscillators can play samples. They can play generated synthesizer stuff. So it's a variety. But for example, this patch here is right. So this patch here is this beautiful gossamer keyboard thing, and this is actually comprised of a couple of different sounds. We can look over here, we can see it's got an A and a B, and you can see here they call this the oscillator here. And this here shows you if it's a sample or a synth, what's going on here. We can see here this is a sample. And then if we click over here, we can see this one is a synthesizer. So this one is actually composed of two different things going on. So we've got a sample in here, which is some kind of Organic Roads mechanics sound, which they probably sampled the click. Right. And we can go over here and we can check out different sounds. So I can go into my patch browser and I can say, I want to get I don't know, let's get some kind of a ethnic world sound. And let's see, what is this one here? Fuzz paper. Cool. Yep. Yep. And this is just one oscillator here for this one. So it's just one sample that they're using. And this is the kalimba drum fuzz paper that they've taken and they pitched it, made it kind of interesting. Now you can hear there's other effects and stuff like that going on in here, so you can hear like the delays and stuff like that. That's all stuff that was added after the fact. And I could turn on my filter here, and with the filter I can go in here, I can get a low pass filter. Let's grab this juicy low pass filter. And I can use this to further edit the sound. So the original sound is this kind of drum with this paper on it, so it's got this fuzzy kind of buzzing sound to it. But then I can further edit that sound with my filter over here, just like we did with our synthesizers. So I can change this up and do more stuff with it. So there's a lot we can do with this. The starting point is the sample. Okay, so that's really what I'm trying to show you here. And what we're going to be working with today, we're going to start off just talking about just kind of samples in general and how to record stuff and how to put them in. But the one sampler that we're going to work with the most is this one that comes with Ableton Live. It's called Simpler. And this is one that everybody has, whether you have the regular version or the suite version of Ableton Live. It's got the Simpler. And in here we can see it says drop a sample here, so you can just drop the sample right there. And I can play it, and then it's got a filter over here, and there's an envelope right here that controls our amplifier. So we're going to go in and talk about that stuff and how to get that stuff going here. But before we do that, let's talk about some key words for all of this stuff, okay? We're going to be using Simpler, and we're also going to be using Kontakt as a kind of starting point. And the reason why I'm using Kontakt is because Kontakt, it has everything you really need in there, but then it's laid out pretty easily, and it's what I really recommend if you are working on samples and you want to have something that like goes between different DAWs. I recommend Kontakt because you can use it with everything. You can use it in Pro Tools, you can use it in Ableton Live, you can use it in FL Studio, you could use it in Logic, whatever you want. So that's why I kind of use Kontakt as a kind of starting point there. But we are going to show you in Pro Tools later on this week. I'm going to show you how to use Falcon as well, which comes with Pro Tools. So whatever you've got, you can kind of use that. So that's what we're going to be dealing with today. And I'm going to use Kontakt as kind of an example for showing this stuff. But let's go ahead and take a look at the notes here and just talk about some basic vocabulary first, okay? So a sampler is a device that allows you to record audio and then assign it to keys or pads for musical playback. Now, what does this mean? Well, basically, if I record in Ableton Live, here, let me just record myself. Let's see, record myself just saying hello. Go over here to my input, change this here, and I'm just going to hit this here, and hello, my name is Tony. There we go. I've got this. Let's play it back. Hello, my name is Tony. Right, there you go. So I've got that there. Now, does that make Ableton Live a sampler? Well, not exactly. This is just a recording device. I'm just recording into it, just like you would with Pro Tools or something like that. But with Ableton Live, I could actually take this and I could loop it. Let's go ahead and make this into like a little, here, I'll turn on this, and we'll just loop this. My name is Tony. 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 And if I do this for a while, it becomes rhythmic. And it's looping. It's like, kind of a sample, right? Well, yes and no. I look at Ableton Live as kind of a sampling instrument DAW because it kind of blurs the lines between like a DAW, production, sequencer, and sampler playback. But as we're using it right now, I wouldn't really call it a sampler. I'm using a sample and I'm making this what I would just call this a loop. So Ableton Live allows us to easily play back loops that if, when you're talking to people, they could call them samples. But a sampler is if I take this file of me talking here. Let me just go ahead and clean this up a little bit. Just going to crop this. And I can take this now and drop it into the sampler here, the simpler instrument here. And I can play this with the keys on my keyboard. My name is Tony. So if I play this key right here, my name is Tony. My name is Tony. But now I can play a different key.
My name is Tony. 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 My name is Tony.
My name is Tony. My name is Tony. So I can play all these different
My name is Tony. My name is Tony.
pitches,
My name is Tony. My name is Tony.
all this different stuff.
My name is Tony.
My name.
Right? So now it's on my different keys of my keyboard. So I can, if I just want to grab my name there,
My name is Tony. Tony.
and now I can play it in a musical fashion. And this is really what a sampler allows us to do. A sampler allows us to take something, record it, and then play it back musically. We can play it back like scales, we can play it back rhythms, stuff like that, any kind of musical kind of way. And that's what a sampler does for us. A sampler allows us to record audio and assign it to keys or pads for musical playback. These days with software, the lines are really blurred between samples, samplers, loops, all this different stuff. It's like really, it's all kind of merging into like a big blob kind of thing that does everything. But back in the day, a sampler was a very specific device that did this. So, if we were recording with tape, you could make a loop with tape. It was really convoluted and difficult to do. But what was easier to do when we got a sampler was you just record that loop into your sampler. You can cut it up and put different parts of the loop onto different keys, and then you could play back your music. And this is how in the 80s, 90s, even they do it today, but a lot of these old hip hop producers and stuff like that, they'd take samples from records and they would chop it up and put it on different keys and make their own drum beats and stuff with it. And you have house music, you have drum and bass, you have dubstep, you have hip hop. These use a lot of samples. And even modern pop music, depending on who it is, if you listen to for example, anything like Diplo, like the MIA stuff, that's all really heavily sample based. There's lots and lots of stuff that's all using samples from records and things like that. So a lot of modern hip hop, everything. Lots and lots of using samples out there. So let's take a look at some of this vocabulary. So we've got a couple things here in the beginning here, sample start and sample end. This stuff is, I think, pretty self-explanatory. Sample start is the start point of the sample, and the end is the end point of the sample. So if I go here and look at this example, I've got my name right here, and you can see, if I pull it up here, see these flags right here? This flag is the start and end of my sample. And you can hear, if I drag it around, I can change where the start of the sample is, where it plays back from. So all I'm doing is I'm just hitting the key on my keyboard as I move this around. And that's my start point right there. And I can also do the same thing with the end point. So if I just hit play, my name is Tony, it'll play the whole thing. But if I move the end flag over here, I can adjust the end point of my sample. Okay, so that is our start and end points. Some samplers show you numbers for that. Some samplers don't. This simpler instrument with Ableton Live does not show you any kind of numbers for this. There is a percentage down here that you can adjust for so I can actually use it in real time. But if I just want to actually edit the sample, I can just grab this flag here, and that's just all you do. You're just using the graphic interface there to adjust the sample start point. So that's our sample start point and end point. Then we have the root note. Now the root note is the note that plays the sample at its original recording. So, if I record my voice, hi, my name is Tony. When I play it back,
My name is Tony. My name is Tony.
this right here will change my root note. I mean, this is my root note right here. If I play away from this,
My name is Tony. My name is Tony.
hear how it sounds different.
My name is Tony.
It goes up or down in pitch,
My name is Tony.
and you're also going to notice it gets faster or slower. Okay?
My name is Tony.
That's not a special effect, that's just how samples work.
My name is Tony. My name is Tony.
My name is Tony.
Okay. Now, with simpler instrument, it actually does not have a root note in here. You can just change the transposition down here. If I change this transposition, let me show you. Right there. So if I'm playing the C,
My name is Tony.
and I change the transposition down, it's going to go up in pitch.
My name is
Down in pitch, rather. Sorry.
My name is Tony.
Right? If I go up,
My name is Tony. My name is Tony.
I'm playing the same key, but now it's changing the pitch of things, okay? But that's just the transpose. And this is a little bit confusing because it's different from the root. Let me go ahead and throw this into my Kontakt player, sampler here. I'm going to do the same thing, use the same sample. Y'all are going to get sick of hearing me say my name. You can see I just drag it in, go over here. So now, oh, hold on, let me turn off my browser. There we go. So now in here, I can adjust things like my start and end points of my sample down here. Let's go over to here. There we are. Boom.
My name is Tony. My name is
Okay, so I click on this, and I can grab my start.
my name is Tony.
Grab it.
Tony.
Cool, there's that.
Tony.
Okay, and if I want to adjust my root, in Kontakt, it's represented by this yellow key down here. That's my root note. So if I look here and I see the root note is there, I know that's going to be my original recording of my sample. Now I can change the root note by going over here. You can see it says root right here. I can change that. I can click and drag that down or up. You can see that moves. Or I can actually just drag this. I can just click on the yellow note down there and drag that around. Now, every sampler has their root note in a different place. So the important part is for you just to understand what the root note is. The root note just plays back the original sample. That's really the important takeaway from the root note, because when you start working with a different sampler, you're going to have to find where that root note is. You can read the instructions to find that, or you can just kind of look around because it's usually labeled pretty clearly. As I said there, like the simpler device that comes with Ableton Live does not actually have a thing that says root note, but you can change the pitch and the key by using the transpose. Now, one reason why we might want to change that is because if I have like some kind of a musical material, like a pitch. Here, let me go ahead and just record something real quick and show you what I'm talking about here. Oh, you turn off. Okay, there we go. La. There we go. So I have my la here. Go here. Get out of here. I'm going to grab the end over here, and you can see this looks pretty much the same as it did in the other window. It's because Ableton Live just reuses the stuff, and it's, right now what I'm doing is I'm just going to clean up the sample here just real quick before I drag it in. This is my la. Crop it down so it's just that part there. And if I drag this onto a MIDI track, it'll just automatically create the instrument for me. And now, right, and let's just grab right, so I can take this and I can play it. The problem is that when I play this note here, I don't think that's a C. I actually don't know what note that is because I don't have perfect pitch. So what I can do is I can just drag another instrument on here. Let's just grab a sound, a basic sound. Let's see here. Yeah, here. My electric piano for ideas. So this is just like a basic electric piano. Oh, actually it was a C, basically. And if I play both of these together, it's basically the same pitch. And that's what you really want to see. You really want to see that when I play these together, that they play basically the same pitch. Let me record a different law, because that was not a good example because I was on the right pitch there. Let's go over here to this one. I'll just do a La. So here we go. I'm going to grab this, turn the warp off. And I'm going to take y'all through all these steps here, what I'm doing. La 2. There we go. I'm going to take y'all through like exactly what I'm doing a little bit later on. I just like right now I'm just showing you some examples of things. So I'm just going to take this La 2, drag it down in here. Boom. So here's this. La. Cool. So I got this here. This is not the same note. So if I play this note here, you can hear this one, it's different. If I play them together at the same time, they're not the same. So what I want to do is I want to get my sample to be in the same pitch. That's going to use my root note, or in this case, transpose. There we go. So now that they're in the same pitch degree. That's cool, yeah. I agree. It is. This stuff is like really fun, actually. So I can get these to be in the same pitch, and that's really what I want to do. And that's why the root note is so important, because if you're playing in the key of C, like if you understand music theory and you're playing in the key of C, but then your sounds are a different pitch, everything's going to be off. If you're starting to take your MIDI and you're moving MIDI from one thing to another or whatever, I want my MIDI to be able to same notes. So it's really important that you get your samples in the right key. Now, if you're just buying sample libraries and sample packs and stuff like that, your samples are probably going to be in the right key. So if you're buying instruments or whatever, somebody already did all this work for you. But if you wanted to sample stuff yourself, which is a big part of modern composition and modern production, then you're going to need to know how to do this. Okay, so that's the root note. The root note just gets it's the original, the sample at its original recording playing back, and we change the root note to change our pitch of things. Next up, we've got the key zone, and the key zone assigns the sample to specific keys. That's what the key zone does. So let's go over here. Let's grab my Kontakt instrument. Here, let's replace this. Don't save. Replace it with my law. Boom. Go in here. There we go. So in here, whoops. La. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here to the wave editor, and I'm going to adjust my start point so I don't need that la part in the beginning. And let me go down here and adjust my release envelope. There we go. Adjust my attack so it doesn't have a pop or a click. Awesome. Okay. So you can see we're still using the stuff we learned last week with our synthesizers to kind of shape our sound. And let me just adjust the endpoint. Cool, so I got that right there. I'm going to show you how to make that a little bit more longer and how to deal with it in a second. But over here in our mapping editor, there's this. Now you see this big yellow space here. Well, this is our key zones. So right now, I can play this across all the keys. Oh, Barb says you can use the tuner for how to discover the key. Yeah, that's a really good trick you can use to figure out what key you're playing. Use that tuner thing on there. That's a great advice there, Barb. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, and that's right over here. And we're going to talk, I'm going to go into detail about tuning this stuff up. Right now, I'm just kind of showing you all stuff. We're going to go into details about how to tune this stuff up and like some good tricks and stuff like that. But yeah, you can use the tuner here to kind of see. You can see it's a little bit sharp there, so I can mess with that a little bit later. But so here, our mapping editor, if I want to play this across all the keys or just some of the keys, if I want to restrict this to just certain keys, then I can do that. So if I just put this right here, now I'm still playing that note right there, but if I play here, it's not going to play anything. And if I play down here, it's also not going to play anything because of our key range. So the key range sets where on the keyboard our samples live. So over here is nothing, over here is nothing. Right here, it's just right now my sample is only on one key. If I take this and I extend it, I can adjust where that sample lives. Different samplers do this in different ways. So not all samplers do this the same exact way, but they're all very similar and they all have what they call a key range. Okay. The key range is set by the lowest key and the high key. So the low key is the low end of the key range and the high key is the high key end of the key range. And we're going to use this later to show you how to set up like a drum kit. I'm going to make a little mouth percussion drum kit and I'm going to set it up and show you how to do that. Okay, so that's our key range there. Now, you can also see that, I'm just going to extend this out a little bit more. This also goes up and down like this, and this is what we call the velocity range. The velocity range is pretty much the same thing as the key range. It's just assigning it to different velocities. So if I hit my key harder or softer, it's going to change that velocity, and I can actually assign different samples to that. So for example, this is our law 1. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to grab law 2 and drag it in here. I'm just going to assign it in here to be right here on the C3. So it's the same root note. I'm going to move this root note down for this one. La, la. Oh, that's the same one. Wait. Oh, sorry, hold on a second. Get out of here. Let's use this one. I thought I did. Let's go ahead and drag this up and drag this over to the same note. La, la, la. I'm going to pull this up a little bit. I'm going to adjust this velocity here. Whoops. So it matches a bit better. There we go. La, la, you hear how they're different pitches right now? And this one starts here. La, well, let's drag these in together so they fit more. La, 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 la. Yeah, it's like a little bit out of tune. So I would need to also tune it. La, la, la. Basically, it's close enough, right? But you can also hear it starting in a different place. So I would have to adjust my sample. And you really have to go through this for every single sample that you make. And this is like, you might be saying, wow, this seems really time consuming. It is very time consuming. To work with samples, it's time consuming. There's no real easy way to do it, although there are some shortcuts that have made our lives a lot easier. But you just have to go in and you have to work with every single sample, and you have to tune up every single sample and get every sample working exactly right and pitched correctly and working together so it's nice and smooth. But a second. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm tired of dealing with it. I'm tired. But you can see, like, we can get these together. And this is where our velocity zones do. We got our velocities here, low velocity, high velocity. And with a program like Kontakt, it makes it really easy to just grab things and drag them around and move them around. It makes life very, very easy to just kind of do this stuff. So that's basically that velocity zone. So we got the key zones, we got the velocity zones, and all this, you can see we're dragging in samples. I'm dragging in different like recordings. This is called multisampling. Multisampling basically enables multiple samples to be used within one instrument. And this is used to help sampled acoustic instruments sound more natural. It's also used to make like drum kits and stuff like that. So if you think about it, if I have a piano, let's go over here and grab a piano. I'm going to get rid of these. I just hit delete to get rid of them. And I'm going to go over here and grab a piano. Let's grab over here samples, and I'm going to grab piano. And I'm just going to grab one of these here. Let's see here, light. Okay, cool. So here's my grand piano light F forte C3. I'm going to just take this. I'm going to just drag it in. Throw it in here. Oh, it can't, hold on a second, it can't load it because, here, I'm going to use a different sampler, not Kontakt. It won't let me use it because it's copy protected, but it will let me drag it into sampler from Ableton Live, instruments, sampler. There we go. Drag this in, boom, and so it puts it in here. Now, if I look at this one, and you can see it looks different from the other one, and that's like what I was saying before, you can find all this stuff, but you have to kind of like you have to know where you're looking for. I don't love using sampler with Ableton Live as much as I like using Kontakt, but I can show you how to use it. It's like right here is the little R is my root note, and you can see this root note is on C3. Now, this piano sound, it's a C3. I just know that because it says C3 right here. So if I play this, there it is. Now, here's the thing is that if I go further away from that root note, it's still going to sound like a piano, but it's not going to sound natural. So if I play this, so far it still sounds okay, but we get further away. Now it starts to sound kind of cheap and tinny. And now it no longer sounds like a piano at all. Right? It doesn't sound much, it sounds like a harpsichord almost now. But it's still that piano sample. So what's happening here is that this is the original note that they recorded. And as we go further away from that note, it's just playing the same note, just that same note, just playing that same sample. If I want it to sound more natural, what I would do is I'd go over here and I'd find some other samples here. Let's find some other stuff. Let's go and find a G3. So I'll drag a G3 into here, and I would adjust all the different parameters here. So I'd set the G3 like this, and I'm adjusting my key range now so they don't overlap. And the R, the root note, I want to change that for each sample. So the first one is C3, that's fine. But this one here, the root down here needs to be G3. Oops. There's probably like a number situation I can put in there, but I don't remember what it is. Okay, so now what's going to happen is it's going to play this note. It's playing from this one right here now. And you can see if you look at my keyboard, you can see what notes I'm playing. And you can hear it's a little bit, like the tone is a little bit different. A little bit. But if I play it like this will sound more natural than having one sample across the whole keyboard. So that's what multi-sampling does. And if we look at something like this Oliver Arnold's piano over here, it's gonna be nuts how many samples they're using in here. Check this out. If I go in here and I click on this thing, we can see down here all the different samples they've got for every single key of the keyboard. They've got a whole bunch of samples for all the keys here. And then if we go into our different groups, we can see there's a whole ton of different groups in here. And we're going to talk about the groups here in a little bit. But the groups are what allow us to edit multiple samples at the same time. And we can just see there's all this different stuff going on here. So if we start to look behind the scenes of these, we can see tons and tons of samples at work in here. So each one of these has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 velocity layers going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's across the whole keyboard, there's a ton of key zones going on. So just lots and lots of stuff happening here. So this is what allows us to have a piano sound that sounds really natural across the whole keyboard. Right? So this is what allows us to have that sound. And actually what's going on in here is there's actually two different microphones right here. These microphones I can control these levels here to change the sound. Because what they did was they recorded every sample at the same time with two microphones. And so I can mix between these two mics to get a different sound. Slightly different position. Hear how that sounds like that. And then if I adjust this, and I just have to assign these to knobs, that's a very different sound. So really quickly, I can dial in a totally different tone. Okay, I can dial that in. Now, in order to make something like this, takes a lot of effort, a lot of work by people. It takes a long time to do it. So sampling is like to recreate like real instruments like this. It's kind of like you have to really want to do it because there's a lot of effort involved with it. Most people, what they do is they just buy instruments from companies and they just use those. Like I don't really have any desire to go sample a piano myself because it's just a lot of work. It's not really interesting for me. But there's a lot of people out there who it's very interesting for and they love it. So they'll take this and they'll make a company or they'll put their samples up online or something like that. There's a lot of really cool places to get samples from and instruments. But there's some really great companies out there making stuff. So for me as a musician, I don't need to go and resample pianos and stuff like that unless I find a really interesting piano that I love the tone of it, then I might do that. But most of the time, I just want to use stuff that I find that I can buy from companies. So Spitfire is a really good company for making organic sounds, and they make instruments for mostly for film composition and that kind of film kind of vibe. All right, so that's our multi-sampling. Now you saw me just click on here. There's groups. This allows you to adjust parameters of multiple samples at the same time. So over here, if we click on this, we can see up here it says the group editor right there. I'm gonna whoops, close this down so we're not looking at everything here. That one, cool. Okay, I don't need to see the script editor, but my group editor right here, we can see all these different groups. And if I go to my mapping editor, when I click on different groups, it's showing us different stuff. So you can see here, there's some of these over here, some of these over here, right? These are different groups of samples. So if I wanted to apply an effect to this group, it'll affect those samples. This is really great if you're making drum kits. If you have like 3 or 4 different drum kits spaced across your keyboard, you can assign like a distortion to this drum group. You can assign a compression to this drum group, something else to this drum group over here. So that's, that's what you can do with the groups. If back in the day, when we had multiple outputs, and we can still use this even today, we can have different groups going out to different outputs on our sampler, so we can run them through different effects or run them into different channels on our mixer. So that's what we can do with the groups. It just helps for when you're dealing with tons and tons of samples at the same time. You really want that. You want to deal with them in chunks of groups. Down here, the tuning, adjust the pitch and speed of the sample in semitones. Now, all these different instruments have a tuning. They're in different places. For example, this one here, if I go back just to looking at the instrument face here, up here, there's a tuning knob. So for example, if I play these, let me play this one along with my little keyboard over here. If I wanted to tune this so it's like a different pitch overall, the whole instrument, I can just grab this tune knob here. And now I could play. And I can adjust that tuning right there. I could even put it up the octave. Right? So you get that sound, you get that different pitch there, and that's just from grabbing this knob. So if all I want to do is just adjust my tuning overall for the whole instrument, I can just grab the tune knob right there. You can also tune individual samples. So if I go over here to my this one here, usually you can find there's a tuning thing in here. It's in different places. So for example, over here it might be in the filter global area. I forget exactly where it is in sampler. I feel like the tuning should be in here somewhere. I don't see it right there. Modulation? No, sample maybe? Detune, yeah. Well, that's detune. That's a sense. Pitch, here we go. It's over here in this pitch area. So right here is where I can transpose. I can change the pitch of that one sample in here. And so, like you're seeing, different instruments have these in different places, but they all have them. Then we also have a loop here, and a loop repeats the entire sample or a portion of that sample. So this is actually really cool over here. If I wanted to, let's say I've got my law here. Where's my law? This one. There's my law. If I want this to hold out forever and ever and ever and just keep playing until I release the key, I can turn on my loop. Go over to my, where are we? Oh, right here. Loop, turn that on. And I can adjust this. There we go. And now I've got a loop. Right? So I can play that sound there. Now, it's obviously a very dry sound. It's just me singing, and I want to put some effects and stuff like that on it to make it sound more interesting, which we can talk about a little bit later. But for now, you can see it's just playing this one section over and over again. And so I've got this now. I've got an instrument of just this loop, and it's a nice little loop there. Okay, so that's what the loop does, and the loop has a start point and an end point, just like the sample has a start point and an end point. This loop start is the beginning of the loop end is the end of the loop. I think it's all pretty self-explanatory, but let me just show you real quick what this looks like here. in here, this one, it's a little bit different the way they have it set up because Ableton Live with the simpler instrument doesn't really do looping the same way as everybody else. So let me show you this actually in Kontakt. Get rid of you. Let's go over here. I'm going to grab my Kontakt again. Throw that up. Let's get this law. Open this up. I'm going to edit the sample here real quick. Just going to go in here and grab this section. This looks like it's going to be pretty good to me right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my loop on right over here. Click on this button here. This is how you turn the loop on in Kontakt. I'm going to turn it on, and it's going to loop. And it's going to loop the whole thing here. So I'm going to just grab the end point and the start point of my loop. Like this. And if I hit go, right, I'm going to crossfade a little bit. Too much. And I could adjust this. I'm going to zoom in on it. Not that. Come over here. Come on. And I can adjust this to really get this like looping more correctly. So what I can do is I can actually click on this loop edit here. And when you're looping stuff, you want to line up your kind of sample parts here like this. And kind of make that, and then, you know, maybe crossfade a little bit. And try to get rid of those little points in there. It's like what you'd want to try to do is kind of get rid of those points. And that can take a while. Like you have to find the right part of the part to, you know, like this. Let's go. Let's zoom out here. And I might want to adjust my start and end point. You know, maybe make it shorter. You know, whatever you want to do. And to really get it smooth, you know, you can still hear that loop in there. I don't want to like mess with it too much, you know, because it's just going to take a long time. And it's not super fun to watch. But to get rid of that, you just kind of adjust your start and end points of your loop until it sounds better. Right? So that's basically all the vocabulary we really need that's new. Other stuff that's in here is going to be from what we talked about with our synthesizers. So for example, if I go over here to my law in here, which was, this one's like a nice smooth loop, but just got lucky with this one here. But down here I've got my filter, and I can adjust my filter here to control that sound even more. And then I have my LFO here. And what this does, it allows me to apply synthesizer stuff to my sample. Right now, it doesn't even sound like my voice anymore. It sounds like a synthesizer. So that's what we can do with this. It's not a bad little... Not a bad little sound. So I can use this. You can see how you can start to use this stuff for really exploring the world of samples and like really getting out there and doing a lot of things with it, with all this stuff combined. So what I want to do is just kind of go back here into our notes, and we're just going to go over this one more time using these illustrations as examples here. So the key zones, remember the key zone is where your sample is mapped onto your keyboard. So I can map a sample to one key, or I can map a sample to several keys. It's however you want to do it. So I can have it to one key or several keys. in here, let me go ahead and just record something. Let me show you how that works one more time. We're going to just go ahead and let me just get rid of these. And we'll call this one Beatbox. Or I'll call this one Boom Bap. So I'm just going to record this. Boom. Bap. Tss. Psh. Psh. Boom. All right, so there's some sounds. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and grab these samples out. I'm going to turn off my warp here. I'm going to clean them up first. And this is what I recommend doing this kind of if you're working in Ableton Live for this stuff. I recommend kind of going through and cleaning stuff up first in this big screen because it's so easy to see stuff. So I'm just going to put my endpoint right over here, and I'm going to make a copy of this. And I've got this one right here. Boom, like that. And I'm just going to go through and adjust my start points for each one of these. I'm holding down Option to drag it over. And I'm just grabbing each sample right from the beginning, and then I'm going to go through and just adjust my endpoints. And I'm doing it like this just because it's a little bit faster, I think, than just to kind of focus on the start points and then the endpoints separately from each other. So I just put that in. It doesn't need to be exact, and I just go over here, and I can now just adjust the endpoint right there. Boom, there's that one. And adjusting the endpoint right here. And you'll hear, once I'm done with this, all these individual little things that I just did with my mouth. Here's this, and adjusting the endpoint. All right, so there we go. So if I hit play on this, boom, bap. Okay, and you can hear like the noise and stuff. It's not, it's not a great microphone, but there we go. Yeah, you can't see what I'm doing at the bottom. Oh, because is it off the screen? Oh, it's like, yeah, I've got this adjusted here. At the bottom down here? I don't think I was doing anything at the bottom. What was I doing on the bottom? I don't remember now. Here, let me adjust this so it fits. Sorry about that, guys. It's hard to see. I don't have two monitors set up right now, so it's hard for me to see like what's going on. Oh, I see what's happening here. Oh. All right, hold on a second. I forgot, because this is set up for my old... Ugh, that's annoying. All right, well... Yeah, it's not set to my whole... Well, okay. I'll just keep it... Now I know where it is. Okay, cool. So, in here... Yeah, you can't see what I'm doing over here on the side. It's okay. It's just the same stuff I was doing over here. You can see this over here, right? I just did the same thing for every single one of them. So when I got off the side of the screen over here, you couldn't see it, but it's just the same stuff. So I've got this, boom, this sample here, this one right here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take all of these and I'm going to crop them. You right click and then crop. And it just cuts these all up into this individual part here. And then I'm going to drag these into, let's put them in, I'm going to use Kontakt for now. If you're at school, if you go into school, which you're going to have to do eventually anyway, like soon, you can use Kontakt at school and you can do all this stuff on Kontakt. If you're using the demo version of Ableton Live, I guess you have the sampler, Ableton Live sampler. So we could use that. You can also use drum racks to do this stuff as well. But let me show you in Kontakt, and then I'll show you in drum racks and stuff a little bit later, because it's all connected together. So I'm going to go ahead and open my Kontakt here. And with this, I drag one sample in, and it's got my sample in here, my mapping editor. Now, let's go back over here to our notes. There we go. Here, my key zones, hopefully y'all can see this, is here's my key zones like this, and what I can do is I can take each one of these samples and put them onto, make their own key zone for it. So if I go in here, you can see I'm going to restrict my key zones so it's just one key. like this. So now, if I play this, where are we?
Boom, 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 boom.
There we go.
Boom, 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 boom.
So I've got that there, and I can go into my wave editor in here, and I can just grab the in down here, get rid of all that noise.
Boom, 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 boom.
There we go.
Boom, 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 boom.
Grab the beginning part here.
Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom.
Okay, and then I'm going to drag this one here, put that on the next key. Actually, not that one. Hold on. This one. That's what I want. Put that on my next key right here. I'm just going to drag these in one by one. There we go. One by one and set them up. So now once I do that, I've got
boom, 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 boom,
right? And I've got my hi-hat over here. I can take my hi-hat, put this right here. So now I've got that.
Boom, 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 boom.
So I've got that there, and you can see how I'm setting up this like drum kit here, dragging things in and using these key zones. Now, again, if you're using the EXS24, if you're using Falcon, if you're using Kontakt, if you're using Sampler, the way you do this is all different, and we just don't really have time to show you every single sampler out there. So really what we're doing right now is not like exactly where to go here. It's really about learning the concepts and applying them to whatever sampler that you have. If you're using an MPC Live, if you're using Machine, if you're using any of these things, it's all different. They're all different. They all work differently. So you just have to like pick one and kind of learn how to use it and get used to it here. So let me just go ahead and finish dragging these in here. And what I'm going to do later is I'm actually going to show you how to do this in a drum rack. That was the same one, wasn't it? There we go. Just dragging these down here. Cool. Put this one right here. It's so funny how much these things sound like cymbals and things, because cymbals are just like white noise basically, right? So cool. So I've got these all in here and I can go through and I can edit the start and end points. Get rid of all that noise in there. I'm going to set this up so it actually will auto-select, where is it? Okay, whatever, it's fine. So I'll go down here. There we go. Click on it. I'm going to adjust it here, the end point. There we go. And then down here, cool. So now I've got all these sounds.
Boom, bap, boom, bap, bap.
And I can go ahead and make a little beat. Let's see here, put my metronome on. Turn the tempo down.
Boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap,
Cool.
bap, boom, bap, boom.
And I got my law over here.
Bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap,
Cool.
boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, bap, boom.
All right, and there you go. So you can see how I can put this together with all this stuff that we just did with sampling, stuff like that. And I mean, I know I'm going through it pretty quickly, but we'll come back and take some more time with this over the next couple days and kind of pull this all in together over several days. So what I did was I used my key zones here. I just recorded my voice, cropped it down, just like trimmed it down a little bit, and dragged it onto different notes, different key zones here. I didn't really mess with the root note at all because they're just drum sounds. So the root note, I didn't really mess with it much. And then the velocity zones, again, I'm not really messing with velocity zones, but the velocity zones allow us to have, if I hit the note harder, it can change the sample for me. And then my groups, in this case, these are all part of this one group here. It's all like this one group right there, boom. And I could have a different drum kit on different groups. Okay. And the loops here, the start and end points don't have to be the same as the sample in start and end points, but in here we can see I'm using my loop to make this nice and smooth here. Which, if you remember, this started off from my law sound earlier, which is pretty neat, I think. So what we're going to do right now is let's just take, let's do a break. Let's do a 10-minute break here and come back. And I'm going to adjust the screen so it looks a little bit better as well for y'all. I forgot that I'm using a different monitor. So we're going to go ahead and do that now.